Imagine waking up one morning the same way you've done every day for years. The same bed, the same walls, the same Alabama sky. But that morning would be your last as a free man. Because within hours, everything you ever knew, your name, your home, your dignity, would be taken from you. And all it took was one officer's finger pointing in the wrong direction. This is the story of Anthony Ray Hinton, a man condemned to die for murders he didn't commit, and the 30 years he spent in a 5x7 cell, waiting for justice that never came. You're watching Black Crime Tape, True Crime. If you believe some stories deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because the truth we're about to uncover will change how you see the system forever. It was June 1985, Birmingham, Alabama. A 29-year-old man named Anthony Ray Hinton was working at a warehouse, earning a modest living, taking care of his mother, the kind of life no one notices because it's too ordinary to make the news. But that same morning, 2 restaurant managers were shot and killed in separate robberies. The police didn't have a suspect. No fingerprints. No eyewitnesses. Just pressure. Pressure to find a killer, fast. And in the deep south of the 1980s, where race and fear still mixed like gasoline and fire, a black man didn't need to be guilty to fit the description. Within days, officers showed up at Anthony's mother's home. They said they were investigating a murder. He was confused. He hadn't even been near the crime scenes. But confusion turned to dread when one of the officers looked him dead in the eye and said, "We don't care whether you did it or not. We're going to make sure you're convicted." That moment, that single sentence sealed his fate. A statement that didn't come from justice, but from certainty. The kind of certainty that doesn't need truth, only a target. Anthony was arrested, accused of 2 murders he didn't commit, based on a .38 revolver taken from his mother's house. A gun that would become the center of the state's entire case. But here's the catch. That gun had never been fired in over 25 years. And ballistic experts later confirmed it did not match the bullets from the crime scenes. But none of that mattered. Not then. Not to them. Hinton couldn't afford his own lawyer, so the state assigned him one. A man who didn't just lack resources, he lacked interest. When Anthony asked if they could hire a ballistics expert to prove his innocence, his lawyer replied, "The judge is white, the prosecutor's white, and the jury will be white. You're black. You're going to be found guilty." And that wasn't just legal advice. It was prophecy. In the courtroom of 1985 Alabama, truth was secondary to appearances, and Anthony Ray Hinton looked like the story they wanted to tell. They had no motive, no physical evidence, but they had a black man with a mother's gun, and for the state that was enough. What's terrifying about cases like this isn't just the error, it's the confidence behind the error. How easily the system convinces itself that the story it built must be true, even when the facts crumble beneath it. Anthony Ray Hinton wasn't just arrested for murder. He was arrested for existing in the wrong body, in the wrong place at the wrong time in history. And the scariest part? This wasn't an isolated mistake. This was a pattern, repeated in names we'll never even know. When the trial began, the evidence should have freed him. But instead, it buried him. The jury wasn't looking for truth, they were looking for closure. And the prosecutor? He gave them exactly what they wanted. The walls of a courtroom are supposed to hold truth. But for Anthony Ray Hinton, those walls only held echoes of lies. The kind of lies that wear suits, speak with authority, and call themselves justice. The trial began in 1986 in a Jefferson County courtroom. The prosecution opened with certainty. They claimed the same .38 caliber revolver from Hinton's mother's home matched bullets from 3 separate murders. No witnesses, no fingerprints, no confession, just a gun. But science doesn't lie, people do. And the state's so-called expert in ballistics? He wasn't even certified to perform the analysis. The defense tried to fight back. Hinton's lawyer asked for funds to hire a qualified expert, someone who could prove the gun didn't match. The state gave him $1,000. $1,000 to save a man's life. For that price, the lawyer found an elderly man with poor eyesight, little experience, and a magnifying glass. That was Hinton's only expert. The prosecution's Evidence went unchallenged, because no one in that courtroom wanted to listen. Out of 12 jurors, not one was black. The prosecutor's tone wasn't just persuasive, it was poisoned. He pointed at Anthony like a villain in a story already written. He painted him as a man who hated white people, who wanted revenge, who was driven by anger. Not a shred of that came from evidence. It came from imagination and prejudice. When the prosecutor spoke, you could hear the history in his words, generations of suspicion and supremacy wrapped in legal language. When the defense spoke, it was silence. The kind of silence that happens when truth has no microphone. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Their eyes were calm. The room was quiet. The verdict, guilty. The sentence, death. The courtroom didn't gasp. It didn't mourn. It applauded justice. But the kind of justice that kills innocence isn't justice at all. It's convenience with a legal stamp. What happened to Anthony Ray Hinton wasn't an accident. It was a design. A system that rewards conviction rates more than truth. A culture that sees skin color as evidence. In that courtroom, truth was outnumbered. And once the gavel hit wood, his life became property of the state. He was transferred to Holman Correctional Facility, better known as Hellman by those who'd been there. Death row. A cell barely big enough to stretch your arms. The air thick with sweat, metal, and regret. Every day he could hear the generator hum that powered the electric chair. Every day he waited to hear if it was his turn. For 30 years, Anthony lived between 4 concrete walls. The lights never fully went out. The noise never stopped. The hope, it had to be built from nothing. He read books. He prayed. He learned to escape through imagination. And even when the guards called him names, when inmates screamed at night, he chose to forgive, not because he was free but because it was the only power left to him. He said later, "The only thing stronger than hate is love." But love doesn't free you from steel and concrete. Love doesn't reopen closed cases. For that, you need a miracle, or someone who still believes one can happen. In 1999, 14 years after the trial, a young lawyer named Bryan Stevenson received a letter from death row. Stevenson was already known for fighting impossible cases, but this one haunted him. He read the file, the transcripts, the so-called ballistics evidence. And in minutes he knew something was terribly wrong. 30 years. That's 10,950 mornings behind bars, and 10,950 nights wondering if the sun would ever rise for you again. For Anthony Ray Hinton, freedom wasn't a guarantee, it was a rumor. But that rumor was about to become real. In 1999, Bryan Stevenson, a young civil rights lawyer with the Equal Justice Initiative, read Hinton's case file. It didn't take him long to see what others had ignored. The state's so-called expert who claimed the bullets matched Hinton's mother's gun wasn't qualified. The evidence wasn't consistent. The police investigation was careless. It wasn't a case. It was a cover. Stevenson took on the case, not because it was easy but because it was right. For 16 years he filed motion after motion, facing denial after denial. The courts refused to listen. Alabama refused to admit a mistake. And through it all, Anthony kept his faith. He said, "The only weapon I have is love." Then, in 2014, everything changed. The U.S. Supreme Court finally reviewed the case. They ruled, unanimously, that Anthony Ray Hinton had been denied the right to a fair trial. 30 years too late, but justice had finally spoken. And on April 3, 2015, the doors at Holman Correctional Facility opened. After 30 years on death row, Anthony Ray Hinton was a free man. Reporters gathered outside. Cameras flashed. But Hinton didn't shout. He didn't curse the system. He didn't demand revenge. He smiled. And he said, "The sun does shine." 30 years of lost birthdays. 30 years of watching others die in the cell next to you. 30 years of waiting for a justice system to remember your name. And when it finally did, it offered no apology, no compensation, no accountability, just silence. But Anthony didn't let that silence define him. He wrote a book. He shared his story. He forgave the people who tried to destroy him, because hate, he said, was too heavy to carry. He turned his pain into purpose, speaking across the country, telling anyone who would listen that the system doesn't just fail the guilty, it destroys the innocent. And that every wrongful conviction is not just one man's tragedy, it's an indictment of a nation that still hasn't learned how to see beyond color and class. Anthony Ray Hinton's story isn't rare. It's one of thousands, each with names we'll never hear, faces we'll never see, and lives we'll never get back. But every time his story is told, the silence breaks a little more. Because truth doesn't die in a cell. It waits until someone listens. This isn't just about one man's freedom. It's about a system that confuses punishment with justice, and silence with peace. If stories like Anthony's move you, if you believe that voices like his deserve more than a headline, then hit subscribe to Black Crime Tape, True Crime. Because here we don't just tell stories, we tell the truth they tried to bury. This has been the story of Anthony Ray Hinton. 30 years on death row, for a crime he didn't commit. And the sun still shines.